Hello to all my friends and to those who I hope will become my friends after watching these videos. Of all days in the calendar, in the Jewish calendar, somehow it popped into my mind specifically today on Lag B Omer to start this video blog, which could be symbolic because Lag B Omer, as you probably know, is the day when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away, but we have been told that this day turned into a day of big light, of big joy, an expression of the mysteries of the Torah coming out of the hidden place and becoming revealed. So it could be there's some meaning and some context of joy and happiness and sharing knowledge with each other and learning from each other, that in that sense is a very good starting point for something like a blog or video blog. I'm sitting here in Jerusalem in a place where I'm learning Torah during the day, in the morning. It's a Litvish kollel in the Haredi area, in a very religious, ultra-religious area of Jerusalem. And here it's a regular day. People sit and learn Torah. I'm here upstairs, the Beis Medrash is downstairs. Here it's in a small room. I'm sitting here all on my own, enjoying a few moments when it's still quiet. Probably just in 20-30 minutes there's going to be something happening on right in this room. For many other people, also Haredi, ultra-Orthodox people, today is a great day and they all go out. They all go to the Mount of Meron, where there's a tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Hasidic people and Sephardi people, that's how they celebrate Lag B Omer. For non-religious people, especially less traditional people, they don't even know much about what Lag B Omer is about. We seem to have very different narratives of this holiday. Some people, like in this room, in this place, sit and learn Torah as they do throughout the year. Others celebrate it as the day of pretty much the birthday of Jewish mysticism. And yet, for other group of people, for many non-religious people, this day doesn't seem to have any particular message, even though it's acknowledged in Israel, and on all Israeli TV programs they're going to show you hundreds of thousands of people at Meron, maybe 500 or 600,000 people being there this year. I don't know exactly how many, but it's certainly going to be a significant event. Yet, for a large group of Israelis, they're just going to watch it over the TV screens, and as they sip their tea and discuss matters, it's not going to change much in their lives. I'm thinking of a narrative of this day, what really Lag B Omer stands for, and for me personally, it's an interesting theme and topic because it seems to reveal a lot about what Jewish calendar can teach us, and what Jewish history can teach us as well. Sometimes we have different narratives coming into some sort of a dialogue, or maybe even creating some sort of a very dynamic, very fresh way of looking at things. I'll try to illustrate this concept based on this day, based on what Lag B Omer is about. If you take a look at our Mekorot, take a look at what the Talmud says, take a look at our sources. Talmud only tells us that Lag B Omer, or really in fact we should start before Lag B Omer, that this period of time, which is the time between Pesach and Shavuot, the time of the days of Omer, counting the days, starting from the second day of Pesach and all the way to Shavuot, which Torah speaks about, was the period when disciples of Rabbi Akiva, there were 12,000 zugot, 12,000 couples of them, suddenly died. In a short period of time, we have been told, they suddenly died, which is quite mysterious. How they died, what's the reason? Later on, we see in the Talmud that it's been added, they died from Askara, and Askara is some sort of a disease, we understand, which somehow caused them to die. An epidemic that happened to such a huge number of disciples, 12,000 couples of disciples. And we've been told that happened because they did not respect each other in the Torah study, so far as the Talmud is concerned. Later, in the Gaonic times, something like maybe 7th, 8th century CE, there's a tradition that on Lag B Omer, on the 33rd day of the count of the Omer, which is today, no one died. So this is already the beginning of our understanding that something happened on this day, which, as you see, only starts happening in the Gaonic times. No mention of that in the Talmud. In the book of Zohar, which we traditionally ascribe to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was one of the disciples of Rabbi Akiva of later period, after those 12,000 couples died, Rabbi Akiva had a very small number of students. We've been told just 5, and one of them is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And through those 5 students, Talmud tells us Torah spreads around, and the next generation of Talmidei Chachamim, the next generation of rabbis, is being produced. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is one of them. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who is the main figure of Zohar, we are being told traditionally, in fact, is the author of the book of Zohar, which has been revealed in writing much later, only 13th century CE, and produced quite a significant amount of controversy. Not everybody accepted it as authentic back then. Today it's been recognized as quite authentic. Zohar is the synonym pretty much with Kabbalah. We talk about Kabbalah, mystical study in Judaism. We usually think about Zohar. So Zohar, in the 13th century, tells us that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when he died, that day, which usually is a day of mourning, a great rabbi is dying, it should be a day of mourning, becomes all of a sudden a day of great joy. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tells everybody, don't weep, don't shed tears on the day of my passing away. I'm going back to heaven, I'm going back to my master, and this is going to be a day when great secrets of the Torah will be revealed in the world. Thus it becomes much later in mystical tradition accepted and followed by Hasidim and many Sephardim, Oriental Jews. It becomes the day of when the great mysteries of the Torah are being revealed in the world, the day of Kabbalah, the day of birthday of Jewish mysticism, of Kabbalah. And many mystical customs that have to do with this day somehow appeared probably around medieval times. The bonfires and all the custom of using some archery and all that sorts of things that people do on Lag B Omer. And if you really ask them why they do that, most of them don't know. I'm not going to reveal you the deep meaning of those secrets right now, because I'm not a master of Kabbalah, and I don't really think that I possess enough knowledge to explain this to you. But my point is to ask you a question, which is very much a Jewish thing to do, of course, to ask a question. And my question is like this. We know something from historical point of view. Rabbi Akiva lived in the time of Bar Kokhba revolt. Not only did he live in the time of Bar Kokhba revolt, he actually happened to be, as Rambam puts it, a very significant supporter of Bar Kokhba. And Talmud doesn't seem to tell us much about this whole period of history when millions of Jews died. And we might ask a question, maybe the fact of 12,000 couple of disciples of Rabbi Akiva, who himself supported Bar Kokhba, has to do with Bar Kokhba rebellion, and it has to do with the fact that rebels and those who participated in rebellion were mercilessly killed, butchered by the Romans. That would be a logical assumption, of course, but we must have some sort of a source to support such an assumption. and I bring you one. At Gaonic times we have Shrira Gaon, who writes in his letter. He basically tells us the course of Jewish history all the way from the very beginning till his time, and very briefly he speaks about the period of Rabbi Akiva and his disciples, and he speaks about the fact that they died, 24,000 of them, and he uses the word which does not appear in the Talmud, shmada. Shmada in Aramaic, which is shmad in Hebrew, has only one context. It's not just death. It's death which basically was caused by non-Jews killing Jews for just one reason, because the Jews. This has to do with the persecution. We're talking about Jews being persecuted for being Jews. And this would make a lot of sense in the context of Bar Kokhba rebellion. They were fighting for independence of the Jewish state. They accomplished it for 3.5 years. Finally, Romans had to bring their best legions, their most trained soldiers, and with those very professional army, with that great force, they managed finally to suppress the rebellion and to finish this guerrilla war. For the early Zionist movement, the story of Lag B Omer was a story of Jewish courage. And that's how in modern day Israel, many IDF events will have to do with that day. For them it's the day of courage and the day of glory, and they take this narrative of Bar Kokhba as if we know it for a fact that that's exactly what happened. Our sages and our Talmudic tradition, on the other hand, seems to take it totally in the other direction. They are just telling us, let's learn some Musa, let's learn some ethical teaching from what happened. Why did it happen? That seems to be the most important question in Talmud. Talmud is not interested in telling us what happened. Talmud wants to tell us why did it happen, and Talmud tells us, you know why did it happen? Because they did not respect each other. That's what really kills the students of Rabbi Akiva. Not the sword of the non-Jews, not the sword of the Romans, but their all lack of self-respect, in fact we can say, if they don't respect the Torah of their friends. And that's how we have been told, not 24,000 disciples, but 12,000 couples of disciples. We can add to that we can really understand why Talmud was so cautious in mentioning anything that had to do with Bar Kokhba rebellion. This revolt took so much energy of the Jewish people, and apparently the last hope to bring the Messiah at that period of time, to rebuild the temple, which was destroyed relatively recently. We're talking about 135 CE, the rebellion of Bar Kokhba, and 70 CE, just a couple of generations earlier, the temple was destroyed. There was a hope with 3 years of independence, almost 4 years of independence, that it will be rebuilt. And finally, so many Jewish lives got lost. And we, for a few years, were not even allowed to practice Judaism openly. Rabbis decided that in this period of history, we need to focus on a more spiritual message. And we need to learn an important lesson. What really counts for us to survive as Jews, an essential message, what Judaism stands for, is the inner truth, is the inner strength, is the strength of our spirits. On the other hand, when we are facing the challenge of Jewish state being created, we are looking for the examples of courage, of strength, of commitment to the Jewish cause, of Jewish nationalism. And that's what the early Zionists of the 20th century were doing when they were reviving the long forgotten message of courage through the story of the same day of Lag B Omer. So this day seems to be a very multifaceted day, which has different narratives that even come into some sort of a conflict, you can say. What is this day about, and what Israeli society is about? What's more important, strength and courage, or inner strength of faith? Where are we heading to with this questions? I'm not sure. Well, anyhow, these are just my thoughts for the day, and let me continue studying my Torah, and I hope more of my thoughts will come with next issues of this video blog. All the very best, and enjoy Lag B Omer.